I'm going to be honest with you, Valerie. You just can't keep up with the pace here anymore. You're an analog clock, and we are living in a digital age. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I watched Chase toy with his expensive fountain pen. 18 years. It rolled off the tongue easily, but I had given 18 hard years to Nebula Systems. The code I wrote in a damp basement office nearly 2 decades ago was the very spine holding up this glass tower today. But now, Chase Montgomery, a 29-year-old sitting in this chair solely because of his last name and a shiny suit, was telling me I was obsolete. HR has prepared your exit papers, he said, his voice so devoid of emotion he sounded like one of the bots I'd programmed. We are terminating your contract for cause, effective immediately, on suspicion of compromising company secrets. No severance. Honestly, you should be praying we don't sue you. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. Compromising secrets? Chase, I built this system. I wrote the Trinity Interface. And that interface no longer belongs to you, he cut in, a smug, dismissive smirk spreading across his face. Security will escort you out of the building now. It had all started 4 months ago when Chase was parachuted in as the Director of Innovation. His father, the CEO, sent him to add vision to the company. Chase didn't bring vision, he brought chaos. First, he froze me out of strategy meetings. Valerie, you stick to the technical side. Let us handle the big picture, he'd said. Then he dismantled my team, reassigning my best engineers to dead-end projects. It was textbook mobbing, ignoring my reports, dressing me down in front of juniors, treating me like a senile relic. But the straw that broke the camel's back came last Tuesday. Chase ordered me to open the source code of the Trinity Interface, my life's work, to a cheap offshore third-party firm to cut costs. I refused. That's suicide, Chase. You'll turn our firewalls into Swiss cheese, I had warned him. He had simply replied, cold as ice, do not question my orders, Valerie. And here I was. 2 security guards waited at the door. I wasn't even allowed to pack my desk. They only let me take my purse and a framed photo of my daughter from her high school graduation. As I walked down the corridor, I saw colleagues I'd worked with for years avert their gaze. Chase had already established his empire of fear. They shoved me into the elevator. Just before the doors slid shut, Chase called out from the end of the hall, "Don't take it personally, Valerie. It's just business. The Trinity Interface is in safe hands. Go enjoy your grandkids." As the metal doors sealed shut, I held my breath to keep from crying during the descent from the 35th floor. Stepping out of the lobby into the gray, windy San Francisco afternoon, I didn't even have a cardboard box to show for my career, only a bruised ego and a reputation about to be stained as difficult and old-fashioned. I was 51, a widowed mother, and I had just been discarded. I got behind the wheel of my car. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from pure, unadulterated rage. Chase Montgomery thought he could toss 18 years of my life onto the curb like garbage. He thought he owned the Trinity Interface. But there was something Chase didn't learn in business school. You can never truly separate a creator from their creation. I might have left Trinity behind, but when I wrote the core architecture, I buried a dead man's switch deep within the kernel, something only I knew about. If the system didn't receive my specific biometric handshake for an extended period, and with Chase locking me out, it would silently initiate a countdown. I pulled out my phone. I scrolled to a number saved as emergency that I hadn't dialed in years. Marcus, former FBI cybercrimes investigator, now a private contractor. Marcus? I said when he picked up. The tremor in my voice was gone, replaced by icy resolve. We need to talk about Nebula Systems, and bring a big notebook because the story I'm about to tell you is going to ruin Chase Montgomery's life. Chase thought he had started a war. He had no idea I was just warming up. I was sitting in Joe's Diner, that 24-hour greasy spoon right across the street from the Nebula Systems tower, just staring at the skyscraper glistening in the rain. You know, people think software is like concrete. You pour it, it sets, and it stays there forever. Big mistake. Software is a living organism. It breathes, it grows, and it gets sick. For 18 years, I was the immune system of that building. When Chase Montgomery fired me, he thought he was just getting rid of an old architect. He had no idea he was ripping out the foundation. My friend Marcus slid into the booth opposite me, soaking wet. He tossed a file folder on the table and whispered, "You were right, Val. Chase isn't stupid, but he is definitely greedy." I opened the folder, and the numbers made my head spin. Apex Solutions Ltd. That was the firm Chase wanted my codes for. But get this, there is no Apex Solutions. It's a ghost company, a P.O. box in the Cayman Islands. Chase had been funneling $400,000 a month out of the company budget, straight into his own pocket. He didn't fire me because I was obsolete. He fired me because I was the only one watching. Marcus looked at me and asked, "So, do we go to the FBI?" I took a sip of my cold coffee and smiled. "No, Marcus, not yet. Chase thinks he cut my access. He revoked my passwords, deleted my biometrics, but he forgot one thing. Trinity is my baby, and a mother always hears when her baby cries." I flipped open my laptop to show him. I call it the Lazarus Protocol. It's an insurance policy. If the system doesn't get my specific digital handshake for 72 hours, it goes into total lockdown. The countdown on my screen read, 43 minutes. I told Marcus, in 43 minutes, the system will treat every command Chase sends as a hostile attack. The safety net is gone. Chase is about to try and manage a nuclear reactor with his bare hands. 3 days later, I was in my kitchen, calmly making an omelet. My phone rang. Unknown caller. I let it ring. It rang again. And again. I turned on the TV. Breaking news on Bloomberg. Crisis at Nebula Systems. Customer data inaccessible. Stock down 12%. I laughed out loud. I could practically smell the panic sweating through his expensive suit. On the fourth ring, I finally picked up. Chase was screaming on the other end. "Valerie, for the love of God, pick up the phone!" I kept my voice calm. "Who is this? I don't work for you anymore, remember? Security escorted me out." "Stop it!" he yelled. "The system crashed. Trinity is in lockdown. Clients are screaming. The banks are calling. Fix the damn code!" I flipped my omelet. "I'm sorry, Chase, but you said I was an analog clock, remember? I can't fix your digital problems." He was desperate now. "Valerie, listen. I'll pay your severance. I'll double it. Just give me the password." "It's not about a password, Chase," I said. "The system knows you're stealing. It's rejecting your fake patches from that shell company." There was dead silence on the line. Then he whispered, What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the Cayman Islands, Chase. Oh, and my friend Marcus? He's former FBI. He's sitting outside the district attorney's office right now with a very thick file. Should he go in?" "You can't do that," he stammered. "That's blackmail." "No, darling," I said. "This is a negotiation. Now listen closely. First, you didn't fire me. I resigned. And I want my full stock options vested immediately. That's $2.5 million. "That's impossible. The cash flow." "Then explain the cash flow to the feds," I said. Okay, fine. What else?" "Second, you resign. Cite health reasons, I don't care. But you are leaving that building. Sign the agreement my lawyer just emailed you in the next 10 minutes, or Marcus walks through those doors." I hung up the phone and took a bite of my omelet. It tasted delicious. Here's the kicker. Marcus wasn't actually at the DA's office. He was sitting right next to me at the kitchen table, recording the whole call. Chase just confessed to everything. $2.5 million and a clean house, Marcus grinned. "Not bad for a retirement bonus." "It's not over, Marcus," I said, looking at the logs on my screen. "Chase isn't smart enough to pull this off alone. Someone else set up that shell company." And then I saw it. The IP address. It didn't come from Chase's office. It came from the private estate of the CEO, Chase's father. The son was just a pawn. The real monster was the king. Chase signed the papers faster than I expected. By the next morning, a sterile press release went out stating he was stepping down due to sudden health complications. In the corporate world, that's polite code for "Daddy caught me with my hand in the cookie jar." My phone pinged. A notification from my bank. $2,500,000, the full amount, wired instantly. I was standing in my living room, staring at that number. I should have been popping champagne. I should have been booking a one-way ticket to a beach in Tahiti where nobody knows what a firewall is. But I couldn't celebrate. The air in the room felt heavy, like the pressure drop before a hurricane. Marcus wasn't celebrating either. He was hunched over my laptop, staring at that mysterious IP address we found, the one coming from the CEO's private estate. "Val," Marcus said, his voice low and tight. "You need to see this. Chase was just skimming off the top, but what's happening from the main estate, this isn't just theft." Before I could ask what he meant, my phone rang. It wasn't an unknown number this time. The caller ID simply read, "Richard Montgomery, the king himself." I put it on speaker. My hands were shaking, but I forced my voice to be steady. "Mr. Montgomery, to what do I owe the pleasure? I assume the transfer went through?" Richard's voice filled the kitchen. It was terrifyingly calm. He didn't sound panicked like his son. He sounded like a man who buried people for a living and slept soundly afterwards. "You played a very impressive hand, Valerie," he said. The sound of ice clinking in a glass came through the line. "You broke my son. But let's be honest, Chase was weak. He was a soft target. I'm calling to offer you a friendly piece of advice." "I'm listening." "Take the money," he said, his tone dropping an octave. "Take the money, delete the logs, and disappear. Because if you keep digging into that IP address, you won't just lose your career." He paused, letting the silence stretch out. "You have a daughter, Sarah, right? She's a sophomore at Stanford? Beautiful campus this time of year. It would be a tragedy if her scholarship was revoked, or if she had an unfortunate accident on her way to class." The blood drained from my face. The room started to spin. He wasn't talking about lawsuits anymore. He was threatening my child. I gripped the edge of the granite counter until my knuckles turned white. "Are you threatening my family, Richard?" "I'm negotiating, Valerie, just like you did. I want the original hard drives containing the Lazarus Protocol. I want every copy destroyed. You have 24 hours to bring them to my estate personally. If you don't, well, let's just say I can't guarantee Sarah's safety." The line went dead. For 10 seconds, I couldn't breathe. My mother bear instinct was screaming at me to run, to hide, to pull Sarah out of school. Marcus stood up. The ex-FBI in him had fully engaged. He pulled a Sig Sauer pistol from his ankle holster and checked the magazine with a mechanical click. "He crossed the line," Marcus growled, his eyes dark. "Threatening a civilian? We go to the feds, now." "No," I snapped, my mind racing. "Think, Marcus. Richard Montgomery owns half the judges in this city. If we go to the FBI now, he'll have a lawyer there in 5 minutes. He'll bury the evidence, drag this out in court for 10 years, and Sarah will be looking over her shoulder for the rest of her life." I turned back to the computer. "We don't need a lawsuit, Marcus. We need a kill shot. We need something so damning that even his money can't save him." We spent the next 6 hours tearing apart the encrypted traffic coming from Richard's estate. It was like peeling an onion, layer after rotter layer. And then, we found it. The smoking gun. Chase was just an idiot trying to steal cash. But his father? Richard was a monster. That shell company, Apex Solutions, wasn't just for money laundering. It was a front for a foreign intelligence broker. Richard Montgomery wasn't just stealing from his own company. He was selling backdoor access keys to the U.S. defense contractors that used our software. This wasn't fraud. This was treason. "Okay," I said, typing furiously. "He wants the hard drives? I'll give them to him." "Val, are you crazy?" Marcus asked. "You can't walk into that house alone." I grabbed my coat. I have to. He needs to believe he won, but I'm making a slight modification to the files on this drive. The next night, I pulled up to the Montgomery estate. It looked like a fortress. Iron gates, cameras everywhere, security guards patrolling the grounds with dogs. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but I kept my face blank. Richard was waiting for me in his study. It was a massive room, smelling of old money, leather, and cigar smoke. He was sitting by a fireplace that probably cost more than my entire house, swirling a glass of scotch. "Smart choice," he said, not even offering me a seat. "Give me the drive." I walked forward and placed the silver hard drive on his mahogany desk. It's all there. The source code, the Lazarus Protocol, the logs. I wiped my local copies. Just leave my daughter alone. He smiled. It was the same shark-like grin his son had, but deadlier. "See? Was that so hard? You're a smart woman, Valerie. You know when you're beaten." He plugged the drive into his laptop. "I just need to verify the files." I stepped back near the window. "I'm curious, Richard. Why? You're a billionaire. Why sell the access keys? Why betray your own country?" He laughed, a dry, humorless sound. He started typing his admin password to unlock the drive. "Money isn't about the number, Valerie. It's about the power. The people buying this data, they control the future. I'm just ensuring I have a seat at the table." He hit enter. And that was his mistake. See, Richard thought I brought him the keys to the castle, but I brought him a Trojan horse. The moment he executed the file on that drive, it didn't open the code. It activated a script I wrote in the car, a script that bypassed his firewall, locked his system, and hijacked his webcam and microphone. "What is this?" he muttered, frowning at his screen as a red light blinked on. "It's a live stream, Richard," I said, checking my phone. "You're currently live on YouTube, Twitch, and, thanks to Marcus, the internal server of the FBI Cyber Division." His face went white. He scrambled to shut the laptop, but the audio was already looping. "You just confessed to treason to about 40,000 people," I said, holding up my phone to show him the stream count rocketing up. "And look at the comments. They are not happy." "You bitch!" he screamed, his composure shattering. He lunged for a panic button under his desk, but before his finger could touch it, the heavy oak doors of the study crashed open. "FBI, freeze! Show me your hands!" Marcus walked in first, wearing a tactical vest, with a dozen agents swarming behind him. The sound of boots hitting the hardwood floor was the most beautiful music I'd ever heard. Marcus looked at Richard, then at me, and gave a little salute. I walked over to Richard as he was being shoved against his desk and handcuffed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by pure fear. I leaned in close, so only he could hear me over the chaos. "You were right, Richard. I am an analog clock. But you forgot one thing about analog clocks." He looked at me with pure hatred. "We don't get hacked," I whispered. "And we always know exactly what time it is. It's time to go to prison." As they dragged him out, screaming for his lawyers, I walked out the front door into the cool night air. The rain had stopped. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my daughter. "Mom, are you okay? I just saw the news. Is it true?" I typed back, "I'm fine, sweetie. Just taking out the trash. Love you." I got into my car. Nebula Systems would be bankrupt by morning. My stock options were cashed out. The bad guys were in cuffs. I looked at Marcus in the passenger seat. "So, what does a retired coder do with $2.5 million and a lot of free time?" Marcus grinned, pulling up a file on his tablet. "I don't know, but I hear there's a corrupt pharmaceutical company in Jersey that's been poisoning a local river. They have a very arrogant CEO." I started the engine and smiled. "Jersey, huh? Put it in the GPS." And that is how I took down an empire with a single hard drive. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you enjoyed watching the Montgomery Empire crumble, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And I want to hear from you in the comments. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have taken the $2.5 million and disappeared to an island? Or would you have stayed to fight for the truth like I did? I read every single comment. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because Marcus and I are already packing for Jersey. There's a pharmaceutical CEO who thinks he's untouchable, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. See you in the next story.